everyone. This is Rashonda Thornton. I am the host of the Dietitian Against Diets podcast show. And in the month of April, it's all about sustainability. And you know what? Sustainability matters everywhere. Our partners at Prairie Farm recognize the role that they play and how to become advocates of this worldwide. Today's farmers, you know what? They're actually practicing more sustainability practices than ever to continue to do the work and to work hard to preserve the delicate balance between Earth and our expanding world. As a matter of fact, Prairie Farms, they actually have these two major products that they're contributing to and they're investing in. And it's the energy and water saving investment project, where they have already totaled over the last 2 years $4.7 million towards investing in making sure our energy practices are on top and also our water. Learn more about their efforts and how they're trying to make this earth a better place. Go to www.prairiefarms.com/about/sustainability. Also, you can find them on Instagram. They're always posting recipes and nutritional benefits of some of their products. And I'm sure for the month of April, they're also going to be highlighting sustainability. Well, hello and welcome to, another great episode of the Dietitian Against Diets podcast show. My name is Rashonda Thornton, your host. So this month, in the month of April, we are going to highlight and celebrate sustainability, as it's all connected to who we are as a whole and on an individual basis. And today I want to introduce you to my guest, Brooke Bridges. Now, she is the food justice coordinator for an organization called Fire Farm. Now, this organization is dedicated to raising awareness to food injustice, bringing together diverse groups of people to share skills in sustainable agricultural, health, and training the next generation activist farmers. So I wanted to have no further ado and just say hello, Brooke, and welcome to the show today.
Hi, Rashonda. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. Again, we were having this conversation before the podcast started, just talking about how the power of networking as far as social media has just opened up vast amount of ways that we can connect. And we also talked about how it just helps you to kind of see what other people are doing. And so Brooke is all the way in New York. She's on the farm, actually the Fire Farm. So I'm still here in St. Louis. So just to kind of show you just how we can still find ways to connect with each other, even when we're not necessarily within each other's range. But Brooke, one of the things, as I was looking through the Fire Farm's website, you guys have a lot going on. And it's like, I wonder what's the history behind it and like how, you guys have just opened up these different programming. It seems like you're touching almost every area of human beings, and it's very an inclusive feeling, But when I also think about it's like the people that are part of the organization. And so, you being the coordinator for the food justice and for the food injustice, that's a pretty unique title, So my question to you, because I'm very, very curious, what is your story and how is this connection between, you and organization, how it like resonates to who you are?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the food justice coordinator title, I'll give you a little background on what that really means. It's kind of a catch-all term because I do a lot of random varying things here at the farm. Mm-hmm. So when I started, I was the kitchen magician, assistant kitchen magician, where I would cook for the immersion programs in 2019. So that's when I started. But then last year, the pandemic happened, so we didn't have our immersions because we couldn't have people on the farm. So I transitioned into farming. Okay. And then I transitioned into doing the social media. And then I transitioned into also doing media requests and donor stuff. And so I'm doing all of those things still. And so we needed some title that would encompass all of that. And since all of it's going toward the goal of food justice, we're like, we'll just call it the food justice coordinator. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm listening. Yeah, eating it up. No pun intended.
Okay. I was going to say, in terms of like how that connects to my life, mm-hmm. I grew up in Los Angeles, California, and I grew up in a relatively, I wouldn't say well off, like we weren't rich or anything, but, I never had to struggle for money. I never had to worry about where my food came from. And I think that gave me a very limited idea of what the world looks like and what even just this country looks like. And even as, LA County looks like, so even on a more micro scale. And something was calling me to the land in 2016. Okay. And I decided to go work on a farm in Northern California for a few months. And that whole experience was like, oh my gosh, you plant this tiny little seed and it turns into food and then you can cook it and eat it. And it was like something I had never experience growing up in the concrete jungle. And then, I moved to the East Coast. I followed my mom, who's from the East Coast, and I saw Leah speak, and I was like, I don't know about anything she's talking about, which made me sad as a Black person, not knowing the history of, racial injustice in the food system in this country. And I was like, I need to know more about that, and I want to get involved. And so I just applied for a job. And that's kind of how I came to be connected with Soulfire, was just watching her speak and being super inspired, like so many people are.
That's an interesting story.
Yeah.
And, I think I'm sure there are a lot of people that can really relate to what you just said. When you said growing up, like as consumers, we're detached from where our food comes from. And the more and more we get into utilizing technology and not really using our hands, or now we have, I love food service deliveries, but the more you just get everything packaged to you, the more you get disconnected to what the earth is really done to provide those foods for you. And then there's another layer. Everyone doesn't get that. And so there are a lot of communities, a lot of pockets in almost every city, if not every city, I would say, that has that level where food is not available. People are not understanding, some people are not exposed to fresh fruits and vegetables. And it seems like really weird, because you're thinking everyone should know what a blueberry looks like, or know what a strawberry, how it's grown in the ground. But, like you said, like we have a limited scope of like, we don't live in our own ecosystem. We don't realize that we're actually further away from the real ecosystem. And there's some communities that really have not even been exposed, so I totally agree with you. And so when you met with Leah and you saw her talk, I mean, that's kind of a light bulb moment, I'm sure, for you, because it just kind of inspired you. So, one thing that you guys really talked about was like food sovereignty, just having the independence and be able to have accessibility to food, learning about food, being able to grow food, having those skill sets. Now, what do you see, now that you've been in it and you've probably been really touching some of these communities, what do you see like some of the ripple effects of that lack of independence?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think it's as simple as, not having any knowledge of food that is good for you, like that at the simplest level. But then beyond that, it really makes you feel disempowered, because, you don't have access to the food. It's not like you don't want it, but it's just not there. It just doesn't exist. And, it's really hard when people say like, oh, you need to eat healthier, or you have so many health problems, especially in low-income communities of color. And then they're like, well, you tell me to eat healthy vegetables, but there's not a grocery store within 5 miles of me, and I don't have a car, and how do you expect me to get there? And like, there's just so many aspects of it that get left out of the picture, and it's so easy for someone to go into a community and be like, you need to do this and you need to do that, but then provide no resources. And that just doesn't make any logical sense, which is a part of why we give away food. Yes, we do. But then we also teach people how to grow food. We also set up gardens for people with Soulfire in the city of Albany and in Troy and Schenectady and stuff, so that they can do that process themselves. It's like, it's the whole fisherman thing, right? Give a man a fish for a day and, teach him how to, know the
whole thing. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's, I sometimes I question, because the question in a positive way, like, where is this taking us? Because even here in St. Louis, just kind of getting more, involved in the community, there are a lot of organizations that are doing their harvesting, like on top of roofs. They're teaching people, they have the lifted beds. They're teaching people how to, turn their gardens of flowers into gardens of food. Like, so I see a lot of like pieces of that. And I just wonder, like, is there like, have you ever like recognized any, or what would you say to like the resistance to the community that you're serving, and it comes to like learn that skill set, learn the importance of it, and then like actually implementing it into their own backyard?
Yeah, I think one of the primary hurdles is like time, and just having enough resources to maintain it and to keep things going. And that's something that we bumped up against for last year's Soulfire in the city, where I think the gardeners felt like they didn't have enough support in terms of like the actual training, because they're not coming to the farm for a program like the immersion participants are. They're getting a bed and then they're just like, it's not like good luck, but there was an element of it, I think, that made them feel a little bit just detached from the process. So this year we learned from that and implemented gardener training. So in the
Okay.
month of March, I think it was March, we had 4 gardener trainings. So, we met with them on Zoom and we helped them crop plan and figure out, what the best crops were for them in their location and things they wanted to eat. And so they're getting more of that support. They'll have monthly meetings with their fellow gardeners, just so that they can continue that support throughout the program. So it'll remind them like, oh, you need to go water your plants. Or, your friend Celia is pruning their tomatoes today. Like, you need to do that too. And just so that they can get that continuous, so that it becomes routine. Because if it's a thing you've never done before, it's not going to feel, you're not going to remember to get up and do your farm chores.
And it's like that too. So I'm glad you guys are having like that type of programming. And I'm not sure if that's something, an area that I know you say you do a lot of talks and you do a lot of workshops. Because I wonder, if I'm thinking about myself or like people that I know, if you don't feel confident in doing any type of activity, you're either going to like steer away from it or do it for just a moment, but really not really see like the capacity that it can grow from. And as you're saying, and I think is that people, first of all, being exposed and realize they can do it from their homes, and then having the materials and having the skill sets taught to be able to do it. And that kind of like say empowers them, not just for their generation, but I would hope that that's how we continue to move the mission, is by bringing it towards more generational.
Right. And there's a lot of families that we've, set up beds for who have young ones. And so it's really exciting to see them all do it together as a family.
Great. I bet that's like one of those like makes your heart sing type of things when you're seeing like it ripple down, down and out, So, now you said that you, I read some of your bio, and you also, you're part of like, you wear these different hats, but one of the hats you do is you like to like teach curriculum. And there is something that you mentioned in your bio that, even myself, I'm really big about not just nutrition, but how it's connected to who we are and how we can be have a negative or positive relationship with it, and just how it's so interconnected to just how we see ourselves, how we think. So there's a lot of emotional components to nutrition as well, right? But you all have also connected the mental health component to just like how we are connected to, our earth. And so, just open it up a little bit. I would love to, because it's to me, I think I have an idea, but it's still, I don't want to be misled on my own thoughts, but I feel like that's like such a powerful two-pronged piece that can be really kind of opened up a little bit.
Yeah. So, mental health and nature, like those two things just in a basic sense are so connected. And, speaking from my own experience, I was able to really realize that after moving from LA, to the Berkshires of Western Massachusetts, which is one of the most beautiful places ever. And, really recognizing that the more I stood on the land and, got my hands in the dirt and planted seeds, that my mental health was just flourishing. There was this just this interconnectedness that I hadn't experienced before, especially not since, before I got here to Soulfire. Like the first summer that I spent here, there was something so magical about being on this beautiful land, planting these seeds, tending to these plants around a whole bunch of other Black and brown people, that I was just like, is this heaven? It was like just this amazing experience. And, there are studies that show that there are actual, nutrients and things in the air that plants and trees give off that make you feel good, not to mention just even as simple as oxygen. But being a part of the land and having that really direct connection to your food too, when you eat it, there's something even more nourishing about that. Like, even if it's the same tomato with the same amount of nutrients as the one you buy at the store, let's say, which it's not, because the stuff you grow at home is much more nutrient dense. But let's say it was. Yeah, exactly. There's just something about it that increases that the endorphins or, the dopamine or something. Like it's just a different relationship. And no, yeah, go ahead.
It's just like when you're saying that, like, I want to just kind of put something else in there, because, when I work with people, so I consult people individually with their nutrition, their life, and it's all the components. And one thing I always say, Brooke, that's your last name, Bridges, Brooke, is that I try to help people understand when they're eating, it's not just let me put this in my mouth so I can get on with my day, or let me put this in my mouth so I can, lose weight or follow some sort of like regimen. Like food is bigger than that. You know what I mean? And so not just the food, but like what we are doing with it. So I tell clients, when you are going to the grocery store or to the farmer's market, when you're washing, when you're chopping, when you're cooking, every piece of this preparation to connect with this food while you're eating, like that's all self-care. Like it's not just a part of the formula to get the food in your mouth. Like be in the moment of just like recognizing you're preparing this for your body, type of thing. And like, so you just took it back another step by adding actually the beginning part of it, which is being in the garden, getting your hands rich in the dirt, like really seeing it from seed to plate. And like that's another like layer that I actually haven't even thought about, like, because I know truly when it comes to like our nutrition, our foods, it's a lot of it's connected to who we are. And so just to even like expand it out about how the time we spend buying, preparing, cutting, cooking, that's time for ourselves, but also bringing in that extra step of actually creating it. So I just really think that you just you have realized like how it even goes further than just, purchasing it or cutting it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I feel like it gives you so much more respect, not only for the food, and the produce and, the food that I grow. I definitely don't leave that letting it rot in my fridge like I might by accident, the stuff I buy from the grocery store, because I've nurtured it since it was a little, seedling. Like, so it creates that difference in relationship where it's like, okay, I respect you a lot more. And on top of that, I respect the farmers, a lot more who are outside of me, who are the ones producing the food that go into the grocery stores, because I know how much it takes even to produce food on, this half acre or so that we farm on, versus, the hundreds of acres that others farm on.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. One thing that I saw highlighted in just a common theme of Soul Fire Farm is that there are also a connectivity to our history, and our ancestries, and appreciating that part too. And again, I really feel like we're just so distracted in life, and we're just like, so we're so used to just hitting, a button, and then things are just presented to us, even like looking at it in that realm, like we're supposed to farm the land. We're supposed to be, stewards of the land. That's in our DNA. And I think that to me, it just reaches back and it shows homage to our past, but also recognize that's a part of who we are. I think that's something too that is not even addressed.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I think that's also one of, like, going back to your question about hurdles, that's been one of the biggest hurdles to bringing Black and brown people back to the land, because we've forgotten that inherent, like, relationship, like real relationship, because, obviously our ancestors were taken here against their will and forced to land against their will. And so that creates a lot of generational trauma and subconscious trauma, that the land is a dangerous place. The land, farming in particular, is a slave job. Like, why would I want to do that? But in reality, our ancestors, back in Africa love the land and have great reverence for the land. And so that's something that we teach in the immersion programs too, which is to me my favorite part, because yes, you can learn how to grow food from any permaculture place or farmer place, or, any teacher who teaches that, but relearning that close love and connection with the land is not something that everybody can teach you. And especially relearning that in the lens of being a Black or a brown person in America or anywhere is, that's not something you can learn everywhere. And so that's part of the reason why it was such a great place for me to come and, take this next step in my own healing journey and my own connection to my food and where it comes from, because it's something we got to remember, like the land, we're a part of it.
I bet you didn't see that comment, did you, when you went to listen to her talk, was it?
No, a friend of mine was just like, oh, hey, you should come see this person talk, Leah Penniman, Soul Fire Farm. I was like, oh, I've never heard of it before. And then I saw her and I was like, this is some pretty cool stuff. I need to.
That's how it happens. It's like you stumble across things, and I think it just pulls out who you, pulls out pieces of like who you are and just kind of highlights it, you know. And again, it's like kind of a blind side, but it was meant for you to be there. It was meant for you to be what you're doing now, because it really sounds like you really truly enjoy what you do. And it's like you're actually a part of just even building out other concepts, other perspectives, like you talk about the mental health and the connection to the land. Like, again, you know, we got to get deeper to why we do what we do, you know. And I think like you're actually being able to kind of tap into that, but you're doing it in a way to where you guys are connecting people, you know. And I think that's, to me, is how those communities build. And when communities build and people are empowered, I think that helps contribute to, you know, the food injustice that we're kind of facing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something too that's really a big focus, is not even just having people come to the land and learn how to farm, but like when we connect them, we try to keep taking next steps, you know, like trying to secure grants for people, reallocating funds for farmers, finding land for Black and brown farmers, like wanting this to be a hub for like inspiration and connection and networking, but not to have it stop there. Like, again, it's always just like, let's keep the ball rolling. Let's redistribute these assets if we have access to them or people offer them to us, and do our best to spread it around.
So let's talk about that, because you mentioned like how, you know, you guys are finding these gaps, finding these holes, and you're filling them. And so like we all know, like, especially in the low income community, there are oppressive structures that, you know, misguides our thoughts, our knowledge, or just blocks it to where some people, like say, sometimes people just don't know. You know, what would you say would be like, outside of just accessibility as far as being able to, the logistics of it, and even just not knowing that what healthy food, some foods look like, or options, what would be, you know, because this is something, again, if you don't know, you don't know. But there are also a lot of fine print things that are happening, and you don't see it because it's not in big, bold letters. So what are some, would you say, some more fine print oppressive structures that actually misguide people's food systems? I'm sorry, a person's food system.
Yeah. I think even there's simple things like being in certain neighborhoods where you see a whole row of just fast food places. You know, it's like the subliminal stuff. Even commercials like are targeted, you know, like for specific food places, like everything is targeted. So it's like if you keep getting these pictures of fast food and unhealthy things, and you know that's what's being thrown at you, and you have fewer access to healthy grocery stores or grocery stores with really good produce, that's just going to be what you turn towards because that's what you see. And so I think even like little things like that can be really damaging, because it is your microcosm, that's your world, that's your lens, that's what you see. And then, you know, beyond that, we can get bigger, but.
Yeah. I was going to think about prices. Now, I say this all the time. If you have a family of 4 and you have $10, you know, you're going to automatically say, how can you stretch that $10? And when you have a hamburger that's, you know, $1, you have a $1 menu and it's convenient. You don't have to use any cooking equipment. Like, you're probably overworked, tired, and stressed, so you don't have the time to cook. You don't have the energy to cook. Like, that's also like oppressiveness doesn't mean that it could be a passive oppressiveness, I guess you can say, because it's not in your face holding you back, but it's creating such an easy avenue that holds you back, type of thing, you know? So I think price too is also another thing that people feel like they have to be well off, or, you know, have to be, it's unaffordable to have healthy food, when again, it's the opposite, you know? But I think that too is also just another area of that fine print to where, you know, you only got $10. So go buy everybody, you know, a burger and fries, and everyone is fed for the day, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to, so let's talk about a little bit of some of your programming, because I think that's something when you guys talking about, you're just not presenting the land and some of the foods, but you're teaching people how to do it. And especially for our viewers, and I really want people to start wrapping their heads around some of the work that a lot of organizations are doing and what's in those organizations. So can you speak upon, you know, you talk about the programs that build skills and emotional connection. I know you have I think it's 2 immersion programs, the farming and the building. Are they similar? I mean, I'm sorry, are they one of the same, or they're 2 separate kind of like programs?
They're two separate ones. Yeah.
So give us a little bit of information, like what does that looks like, or like what's the purpose behind it, and what's the outcome of those particular programs? So what's the mission of the outcome?
Sure. Yeah. So we'll start with the Bypoc Fire, which stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color Farming in Relation to Earth. And I'm always amazed as to how they came up with that name.
I saw that acronym. I was like, what does it stand for? But I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. I was like, wow, that's pretty great. So that immersion is like our primary farmers immersion, the farmers education immersion. So prior to COVID, I think we had about 20 to 25 immersion participants who come to the land for 6 days from Sunday through Friday and stay and learn about farming, about soil health, about business planning, about securing funds. So all of the things they need to, have a basic plan around a farm that they might want to start, and engage with each other and engage with the land and, all of those beautiful things. And that's been going on, I think, since 2017, around then. And that immersion program, actually, like 80% of the alumni, the people who go through the program, end up either working on a farm or creating their own farm or food program. So that's pretty amazing. So that's really the outcome of that. We are doing the immersion programs this year, but it's going to be a lot smaller and shorter because of COVID. And so we have a lot more restrictions, but we're still going to do it. So I'm really glad. And the builders immersion is Jonah. So Leah is the one who, is the primary farmer here. That's our co-founder and farm manager. And then Jonah is Leah's partner, and he is the primary infrastructure person. So he's putting on this immersion. I think we had the first one in 2019, and he's teaching people how to build because he, there's beautiful structures on the land here, and he's been the architect and the primary builder of them and the contractor of them. So we're teaching people how to do timber framing and, work with natural plasters. And so that it's not just like you want to learn how to build a farm, but you can learn how to literally build a whole life out in the country, from building to farm to, all of it. So that's the purpose of that one, because people are really becoming interested in learning how to actually build structures, because to have a real community in a real place, you got to have places to be in,
No, so you guys are thinking about, I'm sure in the beginning, you have your core, pieces of ways that you're wanting to bring this mission forward, but you're still finding different ways to just expand out and kind of create to where everything is taken care of, like a holistic kind of approach, as your program is growing, and so when you said the immersion program, I was like, wow, that's just the fact immersed me just to kind of get in deep into it and just surround you with all the resources and skills so you can learn how to go out there on your own. There you go. You're empowering people, you know what I mean? And you're doing a community setting because you're including all different, ethnicities, sexual preferences, it doesn't matter who you are. You're bringing these people together and you're teaching them how to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. So tell me about, what is this Sister Farmer Show thing that's happening that you guys going on? I love the title of it. So I'm curious to see what that's about.
So Ask a Sister Farmer is something that started when COVID started because, we wanted more ways to get people to interact both with us, but with other members of the, Black and brown farmer community who know how to grow food, especially women of color, but also people who identify as women, like just all women. And so Leah, she's our co-founder and farm manager, which I'm sure people who know Soulfire know that. But she interviews people the first Friday of every month on our Facebook from 4 o'clock to 4:40. And they talk about various aspects of farming. So whatever the person is an expert in, they share that brilliance, and people can ask questions, because it's the Facebook Live. And it's really amazing. We have amazing people joining us and just teaching everything that they know. It's good to learn from other members of the community. We don't want to be the only ones sharing stuff because we know there are so many people out there with such brilliance, like we were talking about before, like the networking.
Yeah. Yeah. You're continuing to build build a platform basically, where you're bringing more people on the platform, but you're also using the more people, the more ways that you can share different types of information. And, obviously, again, we go back to how we talk about the beauty of technology. Unfortunately, during last year's pandemic, if you have a mission, like, you will find a way to get to those people. You'll find a way to create something that keeps them, engaged, educated, keep them, encouraged, inspired to just continue to do the work, So, like, again, that you guys have so many different, like, pieces to the puzzle that I feel like it's really any and everyone, that's interested in what you guys are doing, something like they could be a part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, so as we're, like, moving forward, I know that we're coming to a close very soon, unfortunately. And we know, again, everyone, this month is, we're focusing on our world, focusing on our planet. And so, this is a perfect themed conversation because, and it's also getting to where springtime. So people are getting out there and doing more gardening and just learning, having more time and being able to do it now. So I'm glad that we're still talking about this. We're going to close out. And I just want to talk, if you want, I want to ask you a few things, just personally, when we think about, our human race and we think about how we can continue to, like, kind of move the baton when it comes to sustainability practices. If who people, I'm sure, like, you've ran into several people that they're still hesitant. They're still unsure. How would you, like, what would be some easy ways or some first steps you would guide them towards just kind of getting their feet wet and just getting, themselves used to it to where they build the confidence and they start learning as they go?
Yeah, I think one of the easiest ways, which is something I actually first started doing, was to get, like, a little herb plant for your kitchen and experience just, being with it, being with the plant, growing the plant, cooking with the plant. And I think that's a way for you to at least get your feet wet in terms of the farming aspect of things. And in terms of sustainability, there are so many different things that we can do that are simple. For instance, we can make sure that we're buying local as best as we can, or make sure that we're eating seasonally as best as we can. I know not for everybody that's relevant. Like in California, they can eat everything all year because everything grows all year. But out here, that's not the case, So I think if we eat less things that are coming from places that are so far away, maybe that'll impact it to where we're going to have less food coming from so far away, which, reduces carbon footprint of trucks traveling, reduces food waste because we're not overproducing so much food all the time. So there are little steps that we can all take that could move the needle. It would probably take a lot of time, but for me, it makes me feel better. Like, I use all paper, all cloth napkins, and I don't use paper towels unless it's for, very specific things. And that's just a little thing that I do that makes me feel like I'm contributing a little bit more, reducing my footprint a little bit more.
Yeah. And it's so many things, again, that, it's not if everyone just find one or two things that they can do that can make an impact, you just multiply that out. And I think, that's how real change happens, Exactly. And, even when we talk about, the food injustice or, like, the lack of resources or lack of accessibility, I asked you about, how can someone start? I think it really just start with first connect. As you, become exposed first, but then you just learn how to become connected to the food. And, like, starting off, like you said, just a small little herb in your windowsill. And just not just growing it to grow to say you're growing something, but, like, learn how to develop that connection with that. And I think that, to me, will unlock the gates to, like, expanding it out, increasing your earth, building confidence. And then, like, you just start to want to do it. So I think, again, just starting small, and then you'll find those individuals or those organizations that are doing the same thing. And then you just, like, say, we all just gravitate around each other, and that's how we continue to learn and grow.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep. And exactly that's how we got together, by the power of, I'm going to say not social media because it wasn't social media, but by the power of just connectivity between, similar missions and improving people's health, improving the earth's health. Like, it's dire, so I'm glad that we're able to have this conversation, Brooke. As we're getting ready to wrap up, I do also want to, as we talking all about Soulfire, I'm talking all about you. Like, now you help us to connect with Soulfire, right? So I want, to also provide opportunity to you to tell us what you guys have going on. What would be some ways people can, like, learn about you guys or be a part of, support? Like, what are the different ways that we can all help you guys as you guys are expanding out?
Great. Yeah. So you can find us on the internet, obviously, but our website is soulfirefarm.org. So you can check us out there. And on the website, we have tons of resources. So one of the other things that I didn't mention was that we have these videos that are liberation on land videos, which teach people, everywhere, they started during the pandemic, how to do various things. So like teaching about soil health and greenhouse propagation and no-till beds and mushroom inoculation. So, watching those videos, getting inspired by them, listening to brilliant people in our community share their knowledge, is one way that you can get more connected to us and what we do. We also are having work and learn days. So if you happen to be in either New York, Massachusetts, any of the contiguous states, any of the states touching New York, we have work and learn days all throughout the summer. We just posted some on our website, so you can go to the Get Involved, and then I think it's volunteer or community days on the website to register for some of those if you're in the area and want to hang out with us. You can find us on Instagram at Soulfire Farm, where we share a whole bunch of stuff about upcoming farming days, any events that we have coming up, any speaking engagements that you might be able to attend. And yeah, I think those are some good ways, some good beginning ways, and then hopefully that'll connect you to us enough to where we can continue conversation as things come up.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. And that, as Brooke has mentioned, it's a plethora of things that they're doing. I guarantee you go on the website, you will find something that you totally connect with and find a good place to start. Not even just start, but even just to learn. So follow them, go to their website, see what they have going on, and either be a part, find a way to support. And if you're in the New York area or surrounding states, you can actually go there. So I want to encourage everyone to find a way that they can, this month of April, to find their own path to creating sustainability, keeping sustainability, expanding sustainability, and connecting to the land, their foods, and themselves. So, Brooke, again, thank you for being a part of this podcast show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Good, fun conversations like always. Well, guys, that's another episode of the Dietitian Against Diets. Remember, it's never about the food. It's about your connection to what you put in your body and how to live a lifelong, long-term relationship with that and live the life of happiness. So thank you, guys, and I'll see you next week. Okay, as always, I hope you enjoyed that wonderful conversation with my podcast guest today. So as we're going out, I want to also introduce you to another one of my podcast partners. You have seen them connected to my work since the beginning of the podcast, as well as many of my nutrition-centered projects. As one of the top healthiest granola companies, Banner Road continues to grow. Experience a unique combination of organic ingredients derived across the Midwest region. They believe in high quality, high flavor, and they have actually set the bar on how granola can be more than just a topping. Go to their website and find their products near your closest grocery store, or shop online and have the products shipped directly to you. Go to www.bannerroad.com or find them on Instagram at bannerroads.